Hi, welcome to A Watchman's Journal. I'm Diana Larkin, and I am very excited that we are having another rendition of the Triple Threat to bring to you today. Joining me are John Redenbo of Dream Life Decoded. Hello, John.
Hey, Diana, it's good to be here.
Great to have you again. And Ash West, our prophetic dreamer from England. Ash, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, guys, and it's great to be with the Triple Threat as always. Looking forward to this.
It is. It has been a challenge, though, because of Ash's work schedule, and also John is traveling right now, homeless, and he does have a lot of friends, so he's not like sleeping in his truck. But it's very difficult for him to find a place to land that he knows he can record from. So we had talked about doing this as a live stream to go through Ash's amazing encounter in the enemy's camp. What we're going to do today is bring you the second part of that. And then tomorrow we will jump on the live stream that John does every week, a live dream interpretation show. And he'll be doing live dream interpretation for about the first hour. And then we'll begin to go over Ash's dream with all of you providing input. So listen up. And if you didn't hear the first part, you can go back and catch that video. It will be under my Watchman's Journal channel. And it's actually on Dream Life Decoded's channel too, so you can find it there. So I was thinking maybe, Ash, could you just give us a quick couple sentence recap of the first part of the dream and then go ahead into the second part we haven't covered yet?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So these were not dreams. These were actual visions. In a nutshell, I was on a prayer call with Peggy with the golden tooth. We were praying for a prophet. And then during that prayer time is where I saw the two previous visions. One was at Davos, and the other one was involving a painting vision of an angel across the state of Iowa. But again, like Diana said, go back, have a listen to that. This will make more sense to you if you haven't watched this video. If you haven't heard about that story yet, it will make more sense if you go back, watch that first, then come back to this video if you're watching it on the later on. So this is the third part of the vision. So there was two.
Oh, hang on just a minute. I did want to mention one thing, because the angel vision happened over Iowa. And we were talking about prophetic ministries that are part of Iowa. And about 100 of you said, Diana, Hank Kuhneman is in Omaha, Nebraska, not Iowa. And it's like part of my brain did know that. And I think what I was thinking about is their large conferences are held across the river in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So his ministry is definitely headquartered in Nebraska, but he does have a footprint in Iowa as well. So anyway, continue on.
Thank you guys again for your keen eyes. This is exactly what we're looking to encourage during this hour.
Yep.
Because even, I'm not going to go into full detail, but literally about half an hour ago, I saw something that caught my attention from shall we say, someone that has been given a platform or shares a platform that's very well known, and then suddenly you're just like, I know that there was something off before. Whether it's intentional or not, I'm not judging. And I hope and I pray that it's not. But it really does highlight the fact that you cannot pay enough attention to something, but then you can pay too much attention to something to then believe it's something that it's really not. So we've got to balance that right here, because it only takes one extra weight of something happening. And I would say that weight is emotion. And if you allow that emotion to go on either side of the scale, it's going to change your perspective. And then you'll only see through that lens. And it's really, really hard to come out of that focus, that lens from that point. I've been learning about this for the last week. And it's so, if we can implement the training that these analysts that not just working, I'm talking about 3-letter agencies here, but the analysts that go through like John's ministry, what they do at Dream Life Decoded, what they do at Sim, what Diana and what you guys are demonstrating, if we can go through that lens of going, right, let's look at the possibilities here. Let's weigh them all and just not go for the first thing that here or here tells us to. And if we can look at the prophetic like that, it's going to open up the broader scale and the more wider angle of the vision that the Lord's showing us here. So it's not just one narrative or it's one focus. We're seeing pieces of the puzzle here. We prophesy in part, we see in part, and this is the whole thing. This is what I feel, and again, I know John and I know Diane has said this plenty of times. This is not the hour or the season now where it's one guy or one girl with the voice of the Lord now. You are involved in this, and we need you in this. So right now, what I'm going to share with you is a vision. It's not a dream, but yet I need the Holy Spirit that is in you to receive what you're picking up. And tomorrow is a perfect example and opportunity for you guys to really get stuck in there. So I look forward to seeing you guys join us tomorrow. So that being said, let's, if you guys are ready.
Mhm.
Okay, so just a reminder, the date was the 15th of January this year, and I had this. Let me scroll down. And we had a confirmation of what I experienced through Brother Barry Wench from Canada. And he saw a lot of parallels in a dream.
Amazing. Yes.
And that was 2 days after I had this. So, and we do not have any form of communication with each other. So, right, here we go. So I've just titled this Eavesdropping, and you'll find out why. Here we are. I then see a man sat on a chair in an office with an earpiece on and in his left ear, a black keyboard in front of him, a black 4-drawer filing cabinet with silver handles to his right, a window into another office directly behind what he was looking at, and a wooden brown door with a window either side of it to his left.
Hold on. I'm trying to take notes here, and there's so much detail. So, man, chair, office, earpiece, left ear, keyboard, 4-drawer filing cabinet. What
silver
else?
handles.
Silver handles. Oh, that's interesting.
On his right side.
Right side.
A window into another office directly behind what he was looking at.
Okay.
And a wooden brown door with a window either side of it to his left.
So is he looking out the window in the front of him?
I have, the way that I saw him is, it's like he's looking at a computer screen. It's the best way I can describe it. But behind that is what
Okay.
this window is into the other office.
All right. Got it.
It's like a big picture window behind him.
Yes. Yeah. So what he's looking at is a bigger window behind what he's looking at. So let's say you're looking at your PC monitor. Behind that is a window that's open into another office behind that.
Okay.
Okay. Next part. Peggy and I encouraged him to leave. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah. Peggy and I encouraged him to leave and that he was loved. God then said he was to not speak to anyone and just go home. He said to exit out the door to his left and get into his car. He said that when he got into his car and started to drive, he would cry, but he was going to be okay and he would show him what to do. I then see the man, what after felt like a few minutes, take the white earpiece out of his left ear, get up and go to the door. I then see him in a car parking lot, sat in his car, crying. I then saw a woman that I knew.
What kind of car, do you know?
Sorry?
Do you know what kind of car?
No, silver outside and grey fabric seating. And the driver's side was on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Okay. I then saw a woman that I knew was 26 years old. She had straight black long hair and a dark black suit jacket on. She put the white earpiece on. She had a brown leather looking bag on the floor to her right in front of the filing cabinet. The bag had a gold looking casp on it. The Lord encouraged me to tell her all that I was seeing and that she thought she was serving God, but she is not. And the orders she is following are from ones above her that serve a false God. The Lord then showed me she had some fear, and I felt like she was feeling stuck. The Lord then said, I know you speak Hebrew.
Who speaks Hebrew?
The
The woman or you? The
No,
woman.
the woman, yeah.
Okay.
I now know someone from behind her to her right either leans over or comes to her side and started typing zeros and ones on the right keypad of the keyboard. The Lord said, that isn't going to work. And that's where it finishes.
All right. So since the steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the car, is this set in Europe someplace where they drive on the right-hand side?
No idea. I would be intrigued to find out, obviously, the main, if we're going to look at geographical location here, the woman being able to speak Hebrew is a giveaway of location. Do their cars have the driver's seat on the right-hand side or the left? I don't know.
Have you been to Israel, Diana?
No, I have not. I know you read Hebrew that way, left to right. I mean, right to left, backwards of what we do, but I don't.
That's interesting as well, because
yeah,
you've got the keypad on the right there where I saw the person leaning over typing zeros and ones. It's on the right-hand side of the keyboard.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
I'm going to see if I can brave the internet connection here. Find out.
So do you feel like you actually interacted with some people, Ash, in the spirit?
Yeah, I was, yeah, to put it simply, yes. And again, this is right. So they drive on the right-hand side of the road. Just having a look at this.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not on the right. So it's not that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I've never experienced anything like this before, so it's all new to me. But seeing the man in the earpiece, the white earpiece, and just knowing, to me, it just felt like they were on the call with me and Peggy. That's the best way I can describe it. Like they were literally in the call, listening to what we were talking about or praying about, but yet at the same time, it wasn't. I don't know. It's just so odd to try and describe it. But the fact is, I can see the filing cabinet. I can see those 4 drawers. I can see the silver handles on them. I know there's a window. I can see that behind, but I can't see what he's looking at. The screen, whatever it is in front of him, I can see the key. I can see the keyboard, but I can't see what he's looking at. And I think that was my purpose.
Yeah. So what I was thinking about that scene was he sees the picture of what's right in front of him, but he's missing the big picture. And that's what you were there to tell him. It's like, if you look at the big picture, what you're doing, you need to walk away from.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like you were extending mercy to some people that thought they were involved in the right thing, but they were not.
This is crazy because I'm literally just recalling Sister Natalie a couple of weeks ago, or however long ago, was saying you need to watch or listen to Johnny Enlow on Elijah Streams, and he was talking about the difference between the enemy taking a gift that belongs to the body of Christ, renaming it, rebranding it, calling it astral projection, and then literally using it that way. And I didn't get around to watching it because I think it was during the time we were actually doing the first video to this. And I didn't get around to it. And it was literally a couple of days ago I watched it. And I was blown away. And now I'm just getting the revelation that this is that.
Yeah, I really believe that. Yep, there's traveling in the spirit is in the Bible. It's not mentioned a lot, but it is mentioned. Who spoke to Queen, the Queen of, oh boy, not pulling in very many facts here, am I?
The Queen,
this,
the
this,
Queen.
yeah, he was a eunuch who was in Queen Candace's court, and he is traveling, went to Jerusalem and is traveling back to get back home, and somebody got somebody got transported.
Philip?
Yeah, thank you, that one.
Yes.
As he was transported to join that chariot so that he could explain to this court member, who then took Christianity back to that nation because he spoke to that official. So traveling in the spirit is very powerful and is used to implement God's will in the earth. So, because you don't know who you were talking to, Ash, who, do you have a sense of what kind of building that was, Intel or?
I want to say it's more of an executive building.
Okay.
So from judging of just the design of the filing cabinet, the way that people were dressed, especially the women, it was like a very professional executive atmosphere, should we say? And the door as well looks like I don't know, like you would either get, and again, I'm not saying it's this place at all, but I'm just saying like a door that or a designer layout that you would get at a Fortune 500 company.
Okay.
And one that has been established, not brand new, like everything's glass and see-through and high technology, but one that's been established for quite some time. That's what it looked like to me.
Okay. So, John, what are you getting? Oh, what about the car park?
And the car parking place, I knew it was underground. Like it was at the foundation underneath.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking up a few things.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot. There's a whole lot here. Do you know the age of the man in the chair originally? Roughly.
I would
70s,
say
80s,
anywhere
60s.
between late 20s and mid 30s, no older than that.
Okay, so a young man.
Okay. Yeah. And then the gal was young too.
Yeah, 26.
26.
So it's interesting. I heard you said eavesdropping, and I heard listening, surveillance, op. Man in the chair in the office. I heard agent. Earpiece in the left ear. I heard defensive or protective, which is the reason behind why they're listening in this particular case. They're listening because they want to protect themselves from something else that could happen. On the keyboard, cyber, a level of cyber warfare. Of course, we know that surveillance is a big part of things that happen in the cyber community with big tech companies, with, all kinds of things that are happening. But there's any number of reasons why that would happen. The 4-drawer filing cabinet, I heard global file. So it's the idea that it's an international intrigue that you're seeing, that we're talking about at some level, for can be, it's not always, but can be the four corners of the earth, or, you know, the four winds, the four directions. And it doesn't always happen that way, but in this particular case, you know, we just get quiet and hear what the Lord has to say. And I heard global file. Silver handles. Silver a lot of times reminds me, and in this case is very apropos, of betrayal. 30 pieces of silver. You know, Judas's reward. So silver handles on the filing cabinet, which is interesting because it actually reminds me of the Steele dossier and the Russia collusion case.
Oh, wow.
You know, which was put together by foreign agents. Wasn't it the guy from MI6?
Oh,
It's
wow.
actually the guy that put it together.
Yeah, you're right. I think I remember reading something about that recently as well.
Yeah. So, and it was protective because it was commissioned, allegedly, by Hillary Clinton in order to derail Trump from his bid to the White House in 2016.
Okay.
And then, of course, they spent 3.5 of the 4 years he was in office trying to convince the American people that it was real. And ultimately, the truth comes out, and pretty much every single thing the media said about Russia collusion is a bull-faced lie. But it was attributed to coming from Hillary Clinton or Hillary Clinton's people as a way to derail Donald Trump. And it was done through international intelligence agencies, in particular, I believe it was MI6. So driving on the right side, you know, and it was definitely a betrayal. It was a betrayal, frankly, of the trust of the American people. It was a betrayal of, you know, good campaignmanship in trying to win an election. But I don't know if that's what it's talking about, but that's what as we're unpacking, we're seeing pieces. And then a window to the other office. Now, just to be clear, the guy's sitting there looking at a computer like I am, and the window is behind him.
No, it's in
behind
front of
what
him.
he's
In
looking
front
at.
of him.
So it's
Okay.
in front of him, behind what he's. So let's say you're looking at your
Behind
screen.
what he's seeing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's in his view. It's literally what's in front of him. And of course, the window a lot of times represents things like the concept of through the looking glass, which, yes, is Alice in Wonderland, but it's actually first comes from 1 Corinthians 13. Now we see through a glass darkly, or through a mirror dimly. It's the idea either of reflection or the idea of seeing into the future. Potentially, it's a prophetic symbol. Often, again, I keep saying often, not always, because we don't use dream dictionaries. We just listen. And that's the beauty, you know, just describing this for people that may be new joining us. That's the beauty of the language of dreams. It's not definitive. It's a fluid language, which means cow can mean one thing one day and can mean something completely different, off the map, off the charts different another day. And so when I say this is what we're hearing for this particular case, it literally is case sensitive.
Okay.
But what I heard was big picture. So he's seeing a big picture. He's looking at his computer screen. He's got his keyboard in front of him. He's doing the surveillance. He's listening in his left ear. But then he sees this massive window into potentially into the future. What's interesting is you show up there with Peggy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you encourage him to leave. I heard replaced, which just happened, incidentally, in our American democracy within the last, 24, 48 hours. Somebody left that was encouraged to leave, even though that's not how democracy works. And, you know, it was really a coup against their own party. But I just think that is the sole question of why I asked the age of the man.
Okay.
Because if he was a man in his 80s, it's interesting that he's not. He's a man in his 20s, but he's being replaced. He's being asked to leave. And it's obviously an emotional leaving, because there's the opportunity for him to either shoot off his mouth or cry. So your directions are: don't speak to anyone, go home, and you believe that he may need to cry in the car, or you think that he's going to, or did you see that, or what's the deal with that?
So the deal with that was he was in the Lord was instructing him to leave, and then when he would get home, he would cry. So he was giving him the heads up of what was going to happen. But then after he leaves, I then get the vision of him in the car, and he's crying. So,
Okay, so when you say the Lord instructed him, what do you mean by that?
yeah. So let me read this through again. I'll just grab it. So here we go. Second paragraph. Peggy and I encourage him to leave and that he was loved. God then said he was to not speak to anyone and just go home.
So did God tell him that, or tell you to tell him that?
He told me to tell him that. It's like I'm speaking what I'm hearing from the Lord at the time.
Okay, so he's not interacting with like the angel of the Lord, the audible voice of God, any vision, apparition, dream. God is speaking through you, and you're hearing unctions as you're speaking to him. So when you say the Lord is telling him, you're meaning you're telling him at the unction of the Holy Spirit to, you're going to need to leave, go home, don't talk to anyone.
Yes.
And then you see him crying in the car.
Yes.
Okay, that's really interesting. So God is using a prophetic voice to tell him specific directions about him being replaced. It's also interesting that he then takes the earpiece out, stops listening to the surveillance. The op is over for him when he takes the earpiece out. That's also the mantle. That's also the directions. That's also the ability to listen and to gauge what's happening in real time in any current situation, like an op or a surveillance, to put it down, and then walks out. And then he's in a silver gray car. Again, there's silver, the idea of betrayal, the idea that something is happening. We're not sure what it is. He walks out, right side driver, and then there's a woman who's 26 years old.
Yeah.
Any idea about this woman at all that you can shed more light on?
Again, dark hair, straight. And this is going to sound weird, but it looks like clean, like freshly washed, like shiny. That makes sense. Very smart. Like the suit jacket she's wearing, it's black, but it's very smart. It's very professional. And the brown leather looking bag looks quite expensive. I didn't see a brand name or anything on it, but it looked like it was expensive, and especially the gold clasp on it as well, like a locking thing that obviously locks the bag up. That was in front of the drawers, the filing cabinets.
Yeah,
but herself, definitely 26 years old. Just very professional, very like regimented, very focused.
So what I heard when you were talking about the straight hair was a straight shooter.
Okay.
So what you see is what you get with her.
Okay. But again, she's not.
But she has been deceived.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, she's. I don't know. It's not like I'm seeing her as someone we see at protests, shall we say, for left-leaning agendas. But at the same time, it is that regimented focus.
Mm-hmm.
But what confuses me is I can't read a facial expression with her, but yet I know she feels fear.
Okay.
Especially when I start, like, again, doing the same thing what I was doing with the guy. I'm echoing what I'm hearing from the Lord.
Yeah.
And I can feel, it's almost like I'm sat behind her eyes, and I can feel the fear and the heartbeat in her chest pumping. That's what the closeness of this feels like. And that's where I kind of see the person coming over from her right hand shoulder, and then start typing on the keypads from the right hand side.
The fact that she can speak Hebrew, we do know that there are bad elements in every nation of the world, And there are some bad elements in Israeli intelligence.
Yeah, I
And
heard.
I'm just wondering if she's not in Israel. She's in a foreign nation because she's been assigned there.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Okay.
So she's feeling fear. She's feeling stuck. And there's a lot about her black straight hair, dark suit, looks professional, brown leather bag, expensive gold clasp. Like there's a ton of intelligence right there. But tell me about what happens next. You know she's 26. You know she has fear. You know she speaks Hebrew, not because of anything she says. These are all knowingness things. And then a hand reaches over. Do you have any idea what happens after?
I know it's a male. I know it's a male.
Okay.
And they're typing ones and zeros, right?
Yeah, zeros and ones.
Zeros and ones. Is that like binary code or
Yes.
something? Okay.
It's also machine language.
Okay.
So zeros and ones. And it's like,
Okay.
it's not the hand, because obviously, again, like I said, I'm looking from her perspective where she sat down, and the focus is the bag at the bottom of the filing cabinet, and it's to her right side, because it's almost like I'm looking up the moment the hand comes over and reaches over. And from that point, I'm not focused from her perspective anymore. I'm focused on the right hand side's keypad where I'm seeing, the finger pressing the zeros and ones. So I can't but I just know. Again, it's a knowing, it's a male. I believe this is more of an authoritative figure, someone that knows what they're doing.
Was it threatening?
She was intimidated. She was scared, she was stuck. And I feel part of the reason for that was this hand that was reaching over.
It seems to me that both these people, that the Lord had been preparing them for you to come with them with it. It was like a final message that pushed them to make a decision and pivot. So that to me is really interesting.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. The idea of having an earpiece, yeah. The idea of having an earpiece can be surveillance, but it can also be direction.
Yeah.
The idea of a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thought of the person being replaced. Somebody was replaced and somebody else took their place. And it's somebody that they're trying to control or feels controlled. It's somebody that has a connection to Israel. It's somebody that's working in a cyber capacity. And the big window in front can certainly be about the future, but it can also be a window into them, like a window into their office. Think of the Oval Office. Most of the time we see the Oval Office, we see it from the back of the room, shooting forward with the bay windows, the curvature of the oval behind, and cars in a parking lot, if it's not the real one. And if it's the real one, the trees in the background. But I feel like the age is not the physical age of the person.
Okay.
I feel like there's a connection to things that we've already said, to people that we've already said potentially.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts, Diana?
I think that's a possibility. Because that really does describe what we have just witnessed happen this weekend. And as someone with the black straight hair, it has been put into a position that she's really nervous about, because she can see the potential for disaster and for being controlled, and that's being shown to her. So just interesting to know. That's like the Lord pointing out where we can strategically pray into this situation and take advantage of what those people, those emotions they're going through. They're weak points, and we want the Lord to reach them through those, and for the enemy not to take advantage of them, but for those people to be swung into a righteous direction, which would be awesome.
The thing that stuck out to me more between compared to the two, so that the man and the lady, was I felt a real compassion for the guy. Once he got in the car and I saw him crying, I felt a real compassion for him. I don't know, again, there was no further intel that was either given to me or I saw or understood. But I felt there was a change, a genuine change. But again, it was frightening for him. That's the best way I can describe it.
Okay. And did you have compassion for the woman?
Not so much.
Okay, interesting.
No, it was more of I'm feeling her fear, and it's more, yeah, you're right, Lord. It's like her focus and the way she was parallel to the message that was given to her. And I think that's because that's the only way she understands the communication element. Someone talking to her that way. So to me, it's like the message was direct, it was focused, it was professional. Like, this is this. I know, I've spoken, I've identified you. I know you're feeling fear. I know you feel stuck, and I also know that you speak Hebrew. So it's like the front door in the middle of the room and the exit door are all closed off. You've been identified, there's no escape. You have a decision to make. Without me seeing the decision that was made, I'm then put in her seat to see and to feel what she's feeling, and then the focus immediately changes. So the difference between the man and the woman is I felt genuine compassion for the guy once I saw him in the car. With the woman, I didn't feel any compassion apart from feeling what she was feeling. So
well, I think it's interesting because I think what God is showing us is something that is in the midst of happening. The biggest question on the minds of most people, at least on Twitter right now in the political scene in America, is who's going to replace Joe Biden. And a lot of people have their opinions, and there's a lot of people already. I see people on the Prophetic that are, are saying, well, I heard it's this and I heard it's that. And see, I'm right because Biden endorsed Kamala, and I'm like, geez. But it's interesting because it's opened up a lot. There was a lot of intel that we saw related to 2020 that never materialized, where we're like, well, this seemed like a real clear symbol in the dream, and yet it didn't happen. So why did it happen? So what's going on, God? Like, what is happening? And so I think it's easy to look at a dream like this and feel like it's literal. And this, of course, is the question. This is the dichotomy of proper analysis and interpretation. And we talk about, the echo chamber, cognitive bias, cognitive dissonance. It's something that is really interesting because I don't hear mentioned much, almost if ever, when it comes to the prophetic community. Unless, like 2020, something really bad happens and there was kind of back and forth, and again, a lot of compassion for people who are in those positions who feel like, the office of the prophet, or feel the need to speak on behalf of what God is saying in the nation. And it's an awesome responsibility. at the same time, it's like, people have said, I've gotten caught up in the moment. I felt like what my friend said, or what this pastor said, or prophet that I agreed, man, I really like what they said, and it was pinging with me. And so I shared that revelation, but it wasn't really my revelation. I didn't hear that from God, but I felt it and they heard it. So I went with it. And then things kind of got off the rails a little bit. And it's like, I feel like we haven't talked about that enough.
Mhm.
One of the things that I feel like and they're certainly not perfect at everything, and this isn't across the board, but I can say in my organization, and I believe in other organizations too that I've been involved in, like working for the government, when I worked in nuclear power, if there's a screw up, they do postmortems. Like, they go back and they recreate the whole event. What happened? Where did it go wrong? Who pushed one button? Where was the failure of communications? Where was the failure in the chain of command? And they do things because if you're operating a nuclear power plant, as I was, that happens to be on a United States aircraft carrier, and you made a decision, like one day we were going through the Straits of Hormuz, we were entering into the Persian Gulf, we were at war currently with Iraq, and we were within missile range, I think, of both Iraq and Iran, who neither of which was friendly to the United States at that time. And a carrier battle group is 13 ships, and they all follow the lead of the flagship. The flagship is the carrier because that's where the admiral is. So there's 6,000 guys and 88 planes on your carrier. But then there's 12 other ships. And so it's way more people than just 6,000 people. We're going through the Straits of Hormuz. One of the reactors is down. Somebody makes a mistake in flipping switches, and all of a sudden we lose 3 of 4 electric generators. And I'm the guy in the chair that has to make the decision. So the first thing you do is you take the phone off the hook, because the captain, the admiral, anybody else calling, you're not going to take their calls. You're going to fix the problem. And none of them, in fact, it's interesting when this happens, because a lot of times you would get the department head, the captain of the department, the captain of the ship, sometimes the admiral, they would come down to central control and they would stand behind you and observe. They wouldn't say a word. And if they did, you could literally physically say, leave now. I need to fix this. And they trained us as nuclear power people that we're the final say. It's the only job that I know of in the military where they actually train you to defy authority. Somebody says, hey, you need to do this. There's no way I'm doing that. I'm the expert. This would affect this and this and this. So anyway, I had to make a decision. And the decision I made, we lost 3 out of 4 generators, was to open the breaker on the last generator, which caused all AC on the ship to go down. It's called the loss of all power. So, but because I did that, it started 4 diesel generators immediately, like 20 seconds, to which I could begin bringing all of the other loads on the ship back, because we lost 3 out of 4 generators. We were very likely going to lose the 4th one anyway to overload. So instead of waiting to see what happens, I made a judgment call. Well, one of the things that happened when I did that is because the rods in the reactor were controlled by the electrical power that was still up, we dropped the rods in the reactor, which means now we're not down one reactor, we're down 2. And we only have 2 reactors. So not only is it a loss of all AC, we are dead in the water. We have no forward propulsion. Going through the Straits of Hormuz during a war within missile range, we can't move. Not only can we not move, not only did we put 6,000 people in a United States aircraft carrier in jeopardy, potentially with that decision, we put 12 other ships. We now have a carrier battle group of 13 ships that all slow down because we just lost propulsion based on a decision that I had to make. But it was the quickest way to recover from that decision. And the guy next to me, who was a commander, leaned over and said, you just dropped one plan. And I said, yeah. And I went and immediately went through the 1.5-hour process of connect this generator to this load and bringing everything back. And so it's interesting that I feel like the window could be the other way. It could be a window, like I said, the guys would line up behind and they would come in to see us do what we do, but they would never step in because they didn't know what we know. They didn't know how to fix the problem. Only somebody that was trained as a senior load dispatcher on an aircraft carrier in central control on watch at the time would have the experience and the expertise to do that. But I think it's really interesting that I'm here to tell you, you feel pressure when you got a captain or an admiral standing behind you. They don't have to say a word. You're just like, this guy controls, he could control the whole third fleet for all you know. I mean, this, and he's there and he's not saying anything because he knows I got to let this guy do his job, but you are feeling the pressure. And so the idea of somebody then reaching over the front of you, which would never happen in this situation, and beginning to adjust your control. We don't actually have controls. We just have an indicator panel. And then we make phone calls and tell other people, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And so we're in constant communications, but we don't actually run the machinery or operate anything. We're just a senior position directing other people to do that. So the fact that this was more of an operator position in that somebody could reach their hand over and begin to mess with the controls would make somebody like me very, very uneasy, especially if the stakes are high, which again, we believe this is an international, potentially surveillance op thing. But again, I want to challenge my own theory. And this is one of the things that we teach in spiritual intelligence is instead of trying to prove your theory right, try to prove it wrong. That's how you avoid, one of the ways you avoid cognitive bias and cognitive dissonance. And I want to hear what you guys are saying, because initially I said surveillance op. And them, the person in the seat, looking out to the window in front of them and the computer screen surveilling somebody else. But perhaps it's somebody that's in a seat with other people looking in at them, again, like the White House thing, that is sitting in a seat where they're being controlled. It doesn't say that they're surveilling somebody. It could be that they're receiving direction, stand up straight, say this, look into the camera, say that, argue the debate this way, that way. There's been all kinds of pontification about the debates, earpieces, things like that, coaching going on live, and the whole idea of a puppet regime, which again, I'm not either here to neither confirm or deny, other than to say that these pontifications could be truths, could be whatever, exist. And so I'm wondering, because if that's the replacement that's going on, gosh, it sure looks like something that's happening right now. And now you had this dream a while back at the beginning of the year, but it's interesting that it's in play 7 months later. So what do you think? Do you think this guy is a surveillance guy in the seat who's been replaced and they're bringing in somebody else to handle the op who has oversight and somebody getting involved? Or do you think that they're in the hot seat being observed and getting directions, and the guy was relieved and a woman was brought in, but not only was she brought in, she's being more closely controlled than the guy, because you didn't see a guy behind the guy reaching over and doing that. What are your thoughts?
No, I thought the guy, to me, it was like twofold. I hope this makes sense. Twofold. One, he was open to listening to the instruction and believed it, like followed, not believed, followed it. But two, there's a pressure element to it. So the instruction first, and then the pressure element, which then led to his emotional reaction. The woman, however, how can I say that? More of a focus and determination. And then when the hands come over, that intimidation, that pressure, that, do I say that? More like she's being observed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's she's focused, she's professional. Then the message gets to her. Then it's the pressure, the emotion in here, and then the leaning over and the real closeness of that hand to where she was before I focus. So again, to me, there's twofold in each one. There's a focus with the woman, and then it's the pressure, it's the fear. With the guy, it was listening and then the pressure. So the pressure comes up twice in this.
How is this tied into Davos and the angel over Iowa? Is there a connection between these three?
That's something I have been thinking about, and I can't find it.
Okay.
I can't see it. I can't link it. If it is there, I pray that someone does. And again, this is why we need you guys involved in this, because we don't, it's not me, it's not Peggy, it's not John or Diana. You all have pieces of this. And the Lord, if you ask and believe, he'll give you the intel. He'll give you something that I didn't see, but that was there. And either one of the three of the dreams or all three of the dreams, if you just ask him and believe him for it. So, but no, I can't say that I know or have any knowledge or wisdom that they're linked together.
Well, you know, the basis of the first one was Davos, where the foundations of Davos is crumbling. Davos, of course, represents the bastion of globalist strength and power, the globalist spirit in the earth today, which can be represented by giants in the five giant stream, can be represented by, you know, the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, right? But in modern day, I think representing it by that room or that organization. So the idea that this is an international thing, the idea that files are involved, surveillance are involved, the level of control one way or another, either the surveillance op is being controlled or somebody is a puppet and is being controlled. I think that could be a direct tie-in. Now, refresh my memory on the Iowa angel and what was kind of, just encapsulate what you see the point of, you know, the point of the first one is the globalist system is crumbling. What do you feel like the point of the Iowa angel dream was?
I feel, because again, it's interesting. You've got the Vivek floating body in that vision as well. So floated to the top. And we were talking about him wearing a black suit. We were talking about him, you know, drowning in that political race because that was, you know, Super Tuesday. So, and he drowned, like he had no chance. But then I feel this is more of a spiritual side of things and the America's foundation. So you're addressing the foundation of the enemy's camp, shall we say? And then we're talking about Iowa because at the end of it, it was talking about the vein. This angel was going to go through the vein of America and was going to I'll read the last paragraph. I then had the knowledge that the angel would travel across the whole country through the vein of America, and there would be no stopping the breaking of the foundations the enemy had laid on and in the land.
That's really interesting because I see a progression. The first one is the foundations of the globalist organization are crumbling overseas, not here, on their own land. They're building the cornerstone, all of that. The second one is America. And again, this relates back to some dreams that we've been working on, where we believe that there's been a globalist spirit, an international globalist spirit. We talked about this before, not to mention any names of organizations that have come here or have been brought here that have fostered kind of the greenhouse effect, that have risen up and been involved in everything from technology to intelligence to politics, and may or may not be backed by various nefarious intelligence organizations of a homegrown variety or an international variety. I'll just leave that to people's imagination. But now, and so God is talking to us about identifying the roots of what he calls altars. And once the roots of altars and they're tied to the land here in America are removed, then the thrones of these things can be kicked out of our nation. But then it's completely something else to have in a seat, because this was another thing that I was going to tell you, is both of these, the man and the woman, are in the same chair. which represents a seat or a position and potentially a seat of authority. And if it's a curly white kind of earpiece, or a lot of earpieces that we talk about that we see are most often used and most often recognized with things like Secret Service, presidential protection, and or government service, particularly in the executive branch. So it can be used certainly for the private, in the private sector, executive protection, the EP industry and all of that. But for somebody to be sitting down and having an earpiece in, even the shape of the earpiece can be a hint as to what it's being used for. I don't know if there is a difference between somebody having an earpiece in the left or the right ear based on what agency or organization they work for. And if they're in front of a camera, you didn't say they were, but if they are, then obviously the tilt of, which side am I going to show you versus, a straight on thing. Let me ask you this about the earpiece. Did it look like the earpiece was they were trying to have it hidden? Was it flesh colored and hard to see, or was it one of those white curly Q ones where it's like, it's pretty obvious there's an earpiece there?
See if I can show you. Again, white. Kind of looked like this. But just white. Yeah, just white instead of black. It looked white. But there was no, like, if you put this in, I know that the curly earpieces, and sometimes they have a mic here. There was no mic. It was just wire going down.
So it's either surveillance or control. So either they're passively listening to something they're not interacting with, or they're getting directions and they're being observed by what they say or what they do, like somebody who would be in an interview. But in an interview, you probably wouldn't have it white because you try to hide the fact that they're being controlled, unless it's an overt symbol where God is saying, this person is clearly being controlled. But it's also interesting that a hand came over. And so it was like double control on the left side. And then the hand comes over on the right side.
Being controlled from both sides.
From both sides.
And I'm just looking at this because the Lord said, look at your keypad. I'm looking at the keypad and there's a control button on the left side and a control button on the right side.
Nice.
What do you know?
I'm just like, look at the key. Oh.
Well, look at where the 0 and the 1 is on your keypad. One is on the right, one is on the left at the top of the bar.
Yeah. Though this was on the right keypad.
Okay.
So when he
had
was
a right number keypad next to it.
Yeah. So
like,
the
okay.
right. Yeah,
I wondered that.
Yeah, that's where that is. So the 1 is above the 0. So the 0 is at the bottom. And then the 1 is directly above it. So he's like 0, 1, 0, 1.
So could this represent, and I'm not saying this is an all the time juxtaposition, but certain people believe that the right or the white hats tend to be more right-leaning conservative, and that the left tends to be the black hats. So could this be dual control? They left them in place with their earpiece in that was from an entirely different entity than the right coming around and actually getting involved. Is this dual control? Because it's interesting. The first guy, he didn't have anybody reaching over his shoulder. He didn't have anything hands-on. But they bring somebody in, they still have the left earpiece, but then they have the hands on. And it's interesting because at the beginning, you said the 4-drawer filing cabinet was silver handled, which means they're being handled with betrayal. So is the person put into this next position actually a double agent controlled by somebody else, but left for people to believe that they're still being controlled by the left side when they're actually now being controlled by the right side?
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
What do you think, Diana? Is that resonating?
It's like I think, opened up a whole new field of how to look at this. John, I know you have a hard stop because you have something else going on this afternoon. So maybe we should wrap this up, and we will bring all this up tomorrow night on
Yes.
Live Dreams.
And
So
people, please bring your thoughts, bring your research. I'm going to throw one piece out there that I'm not going to mention now. But I started looking at, okay, women in a seat occupied by a man who's been asked to leave. So everybody wants to know who's going to be the woman in the seat. So we have some hints. 26 years old, if it's 100% literal, doesn't sound right. So could it be, here's two things that I felt in my spirit that take some time, and you saw me looking down, doing a little bit of research on my phone. Take some time to figure these things out and to actually go back, but I'm hearing impressions in my spirit that I then go test the hypothesis. Could 26 be the length of time they were in politics, or when they got started in politics?
Ooh.
And I'll leave it at that. So look that if you're hearing somebody, if you're hearing a name. Now, guys, when we do spiritual intelligence, we don't want some milk toast. Oh, your dream, Ash, is about somebody that's being controlled. Duh. Like, of course, you see that. But who is the person? Who is in the hot seat? What are they being controlled by? Are they being controlled by the earpiece? Are they being handled? Are they being controlled by the left? Are they being controlled by the right? Are they looking forward? Are they looking back? Are they looking at what they can visually see? Or are they doing some sort of cyber surveillance with zeros and ones? And so there's this juxtaposition between what's happening and what's potentially being represented. And then even the clothes, even the dark clothes, even that we didn't even get the chance to touch on the brown leather bag with the gold clasp. Like, this again reminds me of other dreams where gold's been involved, where numbers have been involved that have to do specifically with bribery. And it's interesting. It also even goes all the way back to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold. But then what happens next in the very next chapter, he does a whole entire statue of gold. So it's the idea of propping yourself up. And anyway, I'm not going to get on a rabbit trail. But guys, listen to what the Holy Spirit is telling you. And when we get on tomorrow, please come with a level of thoughtful interpretation on your own, because when we do this, this is the age of spiritual intelligence. When we do this and we have a team of people, sometimes we have 100, 200, 500 people, whatever it is, that are now chiming in on the comments, and we all have a piece. And when it comes together, I think it's going to be interesting. And I think one of the things that maybe we should start with, Diana, is to read all three dreams, visions, encounters, so we can have, because we haven't had the chance to do that, the three of us, to pull back 50,000 foot view and say, here fresh is Davos, here is Iowa, here is the chair. And then what ideas do we get? What unctions from the Holy Spirit do we get when we put all three together?
Oh, that sounds really fun. All right. Dream Life Decoded is the name of the YouTube channel. So if you haven't followed John, follow him, turn on the notifications, and you will get the live notification. So it's 6 p.m.
Do the first hour. Yeah.
Eastern time. All right. Well, thank you two so much. This has been fascinating. Just watching the Holy Spirit begin to reveal what he is communicating to us. So awesome. Thank you, Ash, so much.
Thank you for having me. And again, thank you for allowing us to be on your platform and share this information and share our experiences and share what you guys are sending in. Your poems, your dreams, your words, your testimonies. There's no one else. And again, I'm not sucking up, but as far as I know, there is no one else that has a prophetic platform that is turning the camera. This is what the Lord showed me, turning the camera on you and then allowing you to share what the Lord's speaking through you. So I feel that the opportunity and just the gratitude from the Lord, just to say thank you for providing this platform for all of us.
Ah, my pleasure, my delight, really. God is speaking so much to his people right now, and I want to make the most of it and encourage and strengthen people that really God is speaking and he is true to his promises. So, John, thank you again for making time for us in your crazy schedule.
Thank you for hosting, and thank you for just finding a place where people can come and listen and be a part. And, you know, my closing thought would be, could this series of dreams reveal who the nomination will be for on the Democratic side in the upcoming weeks and months? Could it be? And if so, why did God give this to Ash? And why are we all here talking about it now when he had it in January?
Yep, those are all really good questions. And we will be with you tomorrow night, and you can provide your insights. And we are looking forward to that. So, all right. Thanks for joining us today. And until we meet again, may you be blessed with his peace, his grace, his glory, and divine encounters and dreams. Bye for now.
Bye.